He was a father, working hard, raising his little girl alone, carrying the weight of 2 roles on shoulders already burdened by the world. To most people, he was invisible, just another face in the crowd, another man trying to get by. But on one ordinary afternoon, that changed. In a matter of minutes, an encounter with a powerful CEO, wealthy, untouchable, accustomed to respect, would unravel into something far more dangerous. It wasn't just about pride. It wasn't just about misunderstanding. It became a moment that revealed how easily dignity could be stolen and how quickly justice could tilt against a man who had done nothing wrong. What happened that day would test not only his strength as a father, but the meaning of justice itself. Marcus knew hard work like he knew the back of his hands, calloused and tired, but steady. A single father in his mid-30s, he juggled 2 jobs, doing everything in his power to give his daughter a safe home and a chance at the future he never had. His mornings began before dawn, packing her lunch, tying her shoelaces, kissing the top of her head before running off to work. The days were long, exhausting, sometimes unforgiving, but he carried it with quiet pride. He had long understood the weight of judgment that followed him into every room, the way people measured his worth before he even spoke. But he moved through life with purpose, raising his daughter with love, hope, and the belief that tomorrow could be better. What he didn't know was that on this day, an unexpected meeting with a man who had everything he never did would thrust him into a storm he could not control. It began so simply. Marcus had just picked up his daughter from school. She skipped along beside him, her tiny hand wrapped around his, her braids bouncing as she laughed at a silly joke he told. Her backpack swung wildly, her smile lighting up the shadow of tall glass buildings that loomed over them. For a moment, everything felt ordinary, warm, light, almost easy. Then everything shifted. A sleek black car slid to a stop in front of them, its tinted window rolling down just enough to reveal a man in a tailored suit. Marcus recognized him immediately. A CEO whose face filled magazines and news reports, a man dripping with wealth, power, and the kind of privilege that closed doors never dared to touch. But the CEO's eyes weren't on Marcus's daughter's joy. They locked on Marcus, assessing, cold, dismissive. His presence here, on this sidewalk, felt like an intrusion. When the CEO stumbled slightly, stepping from the curb, Marcus instinctively reached forward, as any human would, to steady him. But before he could, the man's sharp voice cut through the air. "Don't touch me! I can't walk!" The accusation landed like a strike, loud enough for others nearby to hear. Marcus hadn't touched him, but the words twisted reality into something more sinister. In that single sentence, the image of a black father became reframed, not as a parent walking home with his child, but as a threat. Strangers slowed. Heads turned. Whispers flickered like sparks. And Marcus felt the crushing shift of suspicion land squarely on his shoulders. His daughter squeezed his hand, her small voice breaking the silence. "Daddy, what's wrong?" He forced a smile for her, though his chest burned with shame and fury. But the CEO wasn't done. His voice rose just enough for the crowd to catch. He painted Marcus as aggressive, dangerous, someone to be wary of. His wealth gave his words weight, and in that moment, Marcus's truth seemed powerless. Marcus's pulse quickened. He thought of all the stories, unarmed men, fathers, sons who never made it home. He tightened his grip on his daughter's hand, every instinct screaming to defend himself, but knowing that even anger could be twisted into guilt. And then, red and blue lights pierced the street. A police car rolled in, silent but heavy, authority pressing down before the officers even stepped out. The CEO raised his hand, pointing toward Marcus like a man offering proof. Marcus's heart sank. He knew this wasn't about a stumble anymore. This was survival. Every movement mattered. 2 officers stepped out, hands near their belts, eyes narrowing before Marcus could even speak. His daughter clung to him, trembling. "Sir, step away," one officer barked. Marcus hadn't moved, but the words carved him as guilty. Slowly, he raised one hand, keeping the other around his daughter. His voice was steady, though inside it shook. "I didn't do anything. I'm just taking my daughter home. The CEO stood silent now, his earlier words enough to poison the air. The crowd leaned in, recording on phones, their silence granting weight to the lie. An officer stepped closer, his hand brushing the holster. Marcus's chest tightened. He thought of his daughter's eyes wide with fear, her tears already forming. He thought of every father before him who didn't survive this moment. Hands where I can see them, now! Marcus lifted both hands, his daughter still clutching his sleeve, whispering through tears. Daddy, please. The street was frozen, tension wound tight. Would this be the end? Or would this be the moment everything changed? Minutes dragged like hours. Radio calls, searching stares, silence so heavy it suffocated. And then, without explanation, the officers stepped back. No apology, no acknowledgement. Just cold dismissal, as though Marcus's innocence had always been the question. He pulled his daughter close, her tears soaking his shirt, and walked away in silence. A silence heavier than any shout could be, but the damage was done. His daughter had seen her father treated like a suspect. Marcus carried home not just fear, but the truth that this could happen again, anywhere, anytime, for no reason beyond the color of his skin. That night never left him. It was more than humiliation. It was a reminder of how fragile safety really was, how justice could be twisted in seconds, how a man's dignity could vanish with one accusation, and Marcus's story isn't his alone. It echoes in countless lives, families forced to carry the same weight, children forced to witness their parents stripped of humanity. So the question lingers, how many more times? How many more fathers, mothers, children must endure this before change becomes real? Marcus survived that night. But survival should never be the standard. Dignity, safety, equality. Those should be. Until then, stories like his will keep reminding us of the truth we cannot look away from.